Almost got us. Almost got us saying something that we should. What's up, everybody? Listen, you know the deal. You're on the Golasso America YouTube channel, so hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola. And Tones, the reason that we are starting late today, for everybody that's watching live on the YouTubes on Golasso America, hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications as always, is apparently Chuck was saving some tiny possums.
So they say.
I just don't believe it. That just seems too far-fetched for me.
Oh,
tiny possums.
Is it far-fetched? Let's take a look at my Instagram story.
Okay. We got a real Ace Ventura here. Okay, Ace Ventura.
Honestly,
how do I do that, Charlie?
Like a pet detective.
Take a look, Jimmy. Take a look.
I'm going to have to. I'm going to wait till later, but
what's this?
Wow.
Hold on. Tony, what's this?
That's something you can.
That's some possum you filmed at like 4:00 this morning.
Yeah, off the TV.
It has a timestamp on it, buddy. And then here comes Chuck saving the day. I got a plank, and they climbed out. They're safe and sound.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at you. Not only a man of the people, Chuck, but a man of the animals. I love it. Absolutely love it. Man of the possums.
Chuck Ventura. You know?
Chuck Ventura, pet detective. We love Ace Ventura. Just a shout out to that movie. That's where me and Chuck bonded when we got to the national team. We're playing together. We always just had Ace Ventura quotes back and forth. Little inside.
You can't go wrong with that.
By
the way,
you can't.
Tony, I don't know if you guys did this back in the day, but when you went to play in Mexico, they asked you to give a fake name.
In your hotel room.
Yeah, for the hotel room. Otherwise, so my fake name was Roger Podacter from Ace Ventura. So
the longest time I used to call Chuck Roger Podacter. That we're getting like deep cuts for everybody here on the show. All right, speaking of the show, we have one of our players signing a long-term contract, and we're going to get into who that is if you don't know already. And then we have Americans abroad, some performances this weekend, and then the U.S. Open Cup going again. Round of 32 is coming tonight on Tuesday, Wednesday. We're having a whip around show with these two guys. Not me. I didn't get the invite, but I'm really excited for the other two. I'll be watching and making notes on what you guys aren't doing well. Anyway, let's get into it. Weston McKennie, Big Tones. Okay. He has agreed, reportedly, to a contract extension with Juventus. My first thought is I don't believe it. This is a club that hasn't wanted him for the last 3 off seasons. And now all of a sudden they're going to give him a contract extension. What kind of universe are we living in, Big Tones? What is happening?
Yeah. Well, first off, good for him if the reports are true, right? And we're still waiting to hear some final decision on this, but it sounds like it's getting closer. And I'm not so surprised based on the fact that he's become over, the course of this season, one of the most important players. I mean, he's played everywhere outside of his normal position at central midfield. 41 appearances so far in Serie A, or in all comps. I'm sorry. 9 only as a central midfielder. He's played as a left back. He's played as a left winger. He's played as an attacking midfielder. He's played as a second striker, and of course, all down the right-hand side as well. So he became really, really important. So I'm not surprised that they looked at his performance this year. I think he's got his contract coming up at the end of next season, or one more year on his contract, basically. So you have to make a decision. Do you want him or do you not want him? And it sounds like, Jimmy, that it's going to be for a substantial amount of money. Now, with that said, that they don't have to pay a transfer fee. They did that already back in, what was that, 2021 or the following season? I can't remember, but around 20 million. So you look at it and go, hey, if I can't get another guy, a better player, or a guy that's similar, which I'm going to have to pay for, why don't I just keep the guy I have that's been doing it for us year after year after year? I know it looks weird on paper because, as you said, he's not been he's been kind of exiled 3 times, I think, from this club, but I'm happy for him, man. He deserves it.
And Chuck, I got to get your thoughts on this. It's being reported that, and this is from CBS Sports' Roger Gonzalez, that he's set to become one of Juve's highest paid players. And that's awesome for him. So we'll put it in that space, right? But then when you go to the other side, he's been playing, when I think about Weston, he's been playing with a chip on his shoulder, right? Always trying to prove for his club that he deserves to get more money, to play more, all the other things. And he's done that, and now he's been rewarded. But now there's going to be more responsibility, right? He's going to have a different type of target on his back. Not to say he can't handle it, but it is just a different mentality that he's going to have to approach the subsequent years or seasons, as it were.
I think this speaks to Weston McKennie's maturity, his resilience to rise above the occasion when things are stacked up against him, and just his willingness to fight. What more could you ask from a player who has been in Europe his whole career, and dealing with the ups and downs of trying to survive relegation, playing in the Bundesliga, coming to Juve, taking a loan to the English Premier League, playing in Leeds, not that all going well, the coach getting sacked, you're coming back, dealing with different coaches and different styles at the highest level, playing in a World Cup, all of the above, right? The ins and outs of World Cup qualifying. And here he is being a pillar at one of the biggest clubs in world football. Incredible. I'm so proud of him. There are a lot of similarities in terms of like his positivity, his attitude, not just focusing on football all the time, like knowing there's more to life and being the life of the locker room, but also bringing it every day, knowing what it means to be successful at the highest level and to be respected. And here he is getting a contract. So job well done.
So he's going to be 27 in August. So I think Juve looks at that as well, right? Entering his prime years, we're going to get the best of the best of Wesson. And I got two stories with regard to this. One, when I was on the 06 World Cup team, I was the lowest paid player on the team, right? A shock and a surprise for some that even made the roster. And then when I got to play, even more of a surprise, I think, for some. And when I came back from that, obviously people look at you different, right? You get to play in a World Cup, you're on the World Cup team, blah, blah, blah. And so I used that as leverage, as any player would, to try to get some more dough. And I did. And twice as much that I was on before. I was on $100,000, by the way, if anybody wants to know. Not making a lot, but that's MLS 1.0, 1.5, and that's just how it was. And so I had to fight and scratch, right, to get to that level. And then I remember I got to leverage and got some more money. And then people start to say, well, then if we're paying you twice what you were on before, it's almost like they're inferring that you need to be twice the player. Okay, and I remember Sunil Gulati, the then U.S. Soccer president, after we got knocked out of 06, going, hey, we got 4 years. We got to turn it around and get it going again in 4 years. And I remember thinking, I've never been looked at like that, like the guy. And that was, I was always trying to chase and prove myself. And then all of a sudden I was there, and I didn't talk to a therapist, but I should have, because it was just a huge mentality switch where I was climbing and climbing and climbing. And now I got to a point where I had to maintain. And that was hard for me. And I feel like I dipped in my form for a little while because of that.
But Jimmy, in saying that, didn't you feel like there was still room for you to grow? Like what made you think I've plateaued? Like, I'm not going to put in that work to keep climbing. You know what I mean?
Sure. I didn't stop working. I don't know. It was a different type of,
like
having a therapy
you were
session
content.
Here where I was just,
were you content? Are you satisfied?
There's a content, a satisfaction.
Yeah.
I did it, right? I
Yeah.
proved to everybody that said I couldn't, that I could, even myself. And there was a huge deal of satisfaction. I still derive a lot of satisfaction from it. However, I just didn't know how to kind of manage everything else around me. The expectation. Now there were expectations that there weren't there before, and that was hard for me. So there was that part of it. Go ahead, Tones.
Yeah, I'm just listening to that story, trying to relate it to Weston, right? And thinking like, I don't think there's going to be many Juve fans that are going to disagree with the move. Like take Vlahovic, right? He came from Fiorentina, was 80+ million euro when they bought him. There was a ton of pressure, right? I think that was the second highest transfer they ever played. I think Cristiano Ronaldo was the highest, obviously. And then he doesn't score goals, which is the number one job. Weston's number one job in the midfield is basically working, breaking up plays, being a connector, occasionally getting some goals, occasionally getting some assists. But given the fact that he's a workhorse, he gives everything every single game. I wonder, just the fans won't have a problem with it. You know what I'm saying? Vlahovic, when you spend 80+, This year, Koop Miners, they spent close to 60 million euro, something like that, from him for Atalanta, and then doesn't perform. Now, all of a sudden, there's like pressure after the fact. If he doesn't perform after this, and he does become the highest paid or one of the 2 or 3 highest paid in the team, there might be some pressure. I just don't get the sense that Weston is the type of guy like that's going to feel that. Like he's been through the ringer already with Juventus.
Okay, a quick counter to that. He's never really seemed like he's been entirely comfortable at Juve, and I think that's given him a little bit of that edge, right, to stay sharp.
You don't think so? The past 2 seasons?
Yeah, this year for sure. I think he has.
Because I would argue last year he kind of cemented himself as, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm important to this team. I'm critical to this team having success. All the dirty work, and then this year he just fortified that. He said, he made it undeniable that he's not only does he have to play and he's in the team no matter who the coach is, but what he offers the team on and off the ball, his movement, his work rate, you can't deny it. So I think at this point you could say, I'm pretty sure this season he felt pretty comfortable.
All right. Okay. But there still feels like there's a different type of hunger when I watch him play for Juve than when he plays for the U.S. Or at least in the last, I guess I might have recency bias.
That's a different conversation for sure.
Well, that's the thing. So I'm using the U.S. example as a place where he's comfortable, right? And maybe doesn't have the same type of sharpness that we see when he plays for Juve. And I wonder why that is. There could be a gajillion reasons.
The only issue with that, Jimmy, is if it was just him, then I'd say,
yeah, fair. Good point.
Yeah,
it's littered across the team. So
right.
I don't think it's a Weston problem.
Yeah,
I think it's a team.
Totally
problem.
Fair, for sure. But I wonder then, because if using back kind of the example of if you're going to be paid more and you're going to be one of the highest paid players, I should say it like that. If you're going to be one of the highest paid players on the team, my asks of you are going to be different. Yeah, you got to do all the things that you mentioned, Tones, but I also need to see some intangibles, right? That's being a good pro and modeling the behavior of what a good pro looks like off the field, on the field. Not to say that he doesn't do that. I'm just saying that's just, and especially this year, you can see that he's hit another gear, and there's a different version of maybe a more mature version of Weston that we're seeing. So again, I'm not trying to say that he does that, but that would be part of my expectations. Like, hey, we're giving you this deal. We trust you, and that means that we want you to be a leader both on and off the field. And I'd like to see that translate to the U.S. I feel like I'm kind of muddled in my thoughts with my past experiences a little bit, but go ahead.
I agree. But can we flip it and say maybe they gave him the contract because they've now finally seen everything you're talking about, that he is a leader in the team? One thing we don't know, right? We don't know what it looks like in the dressing room. We don't know what it looks like in the meal room. When someone has a problem, who's the guy to put his arm around someone? We're not in there. I get the sense that Weston would do that stuff, all of that stuff. So can we make the argument that they gave him this contract because all of the things that you're talking about they need to see, they've just seen it finally. Like they think, okay, now's the time to give Weston this deal.
We can trust.
Now's the time.
He's delivered.
Yeah,
he's delivered on what the expectations we had for Weston. He's finally delivered, and now we have confidence and we trust in him to do it from now and for the future, which is why you get that contract. You're not getting a contract from Juve after some of these bumps in along the way to say, you know what? We're not too sure, no matter who the coach is, that he's going to be right for this project. From the executives at Juve, whoever the coach is, whatever the project is, Weston fits. He is a Juve player. That is clear. You're only getting that contract if they believe that.
What's going to be awesome or funny, I guess, from at least this conversation's perspective, is if they just signed him to a new deal so they could get a better transfer fee and he's going to be out in the summer. I don't know where he would go per se. Also, I wanted to say, get it out there that I'm using this kind of conversation, but this could be for anybody that gets a new deal. I know Christian, did he sign a new deal this season as well? Like another player that clearly earned the trust.
Not yet.
Okay, so they're working on it, but clearly there's some emphasis there in terms of winning trust. So Weston's the one that's just signed the new deal, so I'm using him as.
Remember, he hasn't signed yet.
That's true. Reportedly hasn't signed yet. It hasn't reportedly signed yet. I guess I'm leaning back into my feelings of something. Here's one other funny story that I think you guys get a big kick out of. When I was a player, I used to write a column for Sports Illustrated when Sports Illustrated wasn't written by AI journalists. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure there's some of that in there somewhere. And then I made the switch, and my agent at the time and the people with my agent, they made the switch from Sports Illustrated to ESPN. Okay. And they said, hey, well, we got you a good deal. This is, I'm like, okay, it's a couple $100, but yeah. Okay. It's a good deal. And for me, it was about visibility and obviously showcasing some of my personality, blah, blah, blah. But they said, hey, because of this move, you're going to get more eyeballs, blah, blah, blah. We need you to be more funny. And I was like, if you can't see me, I just turned around on my chair. What does more funny mean? And I feel like there's an element of that happening. Like, okay, we're giving you more money. We need you to play even better. And I know I mentioned that a little bit before when I got my deal post World Cup.
You sound bitter a little bit.
It's not bitter. It's just like a crazy statement. And it's just that the perception of you changes. And this is something I think there's another layer that you have to cope with. To your point, maybe nothing changes, right? Juve fans aren't going to get on him like they would with Vlahovic. And I think that's a great point. He's coming in and not having to be a guy that has to hit like statistical things that are going to move the needle, or he's a failure type of stuff with goals and assists and all that. So yeah, maybe he's in a much more safe space. I don't know what else to say there, but the more funny thing still sticks with me. I don't know if it's bitterness so much, Chuck. I just like marvel at somebody saying, can you be more funny? What does even more funny mean?
I need you to be more funny on this podcast.
Well, at times I could be a little funnier.
He's slacking. He's not as funny as he.
Okay. I need to be more punctual. Okay?
Do we need to be more funny or funnier? Which one is it?
That's a good question. Curious. We need Chuck to stop saving possums to be here on time. That's what we need.
I went to UVA for 2 years. I could, it might help a little bit, but
all right. So
I love bitter Jimmy. Honestly,
look at that photo of Chuck. It looks like you're tasing that possum. That's a great
you really saved him, Charlie.
Hey, yeah, that's Mama. Mama was mad, so I had to use.
Love it.
I had to use the equipment.
That's absolutely hilarious.
If possum looks saved there.
Looking saved. Well, so to tie up this, I want to put this conversation, a little bow on this conversation. Did you guys not feel more responsibility when you got the contract that you thought you deserved? And how did you feel? Did you feel settled? Did you feel comfortable? And did that take away your edge in any capacity?
Yeah, for me, look, I always said I was going to outplay whatever number I got. That's all. That was whatever they gave me, I was going to make them think they needed to give me more. That's the only attitude I had ever. And that's what I've tried to instill in my own kids. Whatever you're doing, just make them feel like they're whatever they're paying you, it's worth and then some what they're paying you, because it's the only mentality. I wasn't good enough to like take my foot off the pedal ever. I didn't have it in the end, like it all worked out, but I just always felt like, man, if I take my foot off the pedal, someone else is coming, even if there wasn't anyone coming at that moment, someone that was realistically making a challenge at the end. So hopefully Weston does just that. I get the sense that this will finally settle him at a place. And I saw some discussion online about Weston yesterday about, moving to another club. Let's not forget, Juventus is still one of the biggest clubs in the world. I mean, there's not a lot of clubs to go to that are gonna be bigger. And whatever they're paying them, remember in Serie A right now, with the way the finances are for these clubs, Charlie, there's not a lot of teams that can make mistakes. They can't make big mistakes. There's just not that much money in Italy. In Man City or somewhere else, they can make a mistake and pay somebody and it doesn't work out, and they eat it and they move on to the next guy, but they can't do a lot of that in Italy. So they had to be really sure if they're going to give him this contract that he's the guy.
Chuck, where were you in your when you got the big deal, or you got the move that you wanted, or you know what I mean? Where feelings wise, emotionally? I loved your answer, Big Tones. I thought it was great.
Tony was spot on. I loved his attitude towards always looking for the next one. Like I think once you settle, it's really difficult to figure out, okay, how do I keep putting in performances that my team is going to be excited about, happy about, and kind of just leveling out the standards for me. Once I made the big move to France, and I was coming off the back of Confederations Cup and just the group stages of Gold Cup in 2009. There were moves for me that I could have made that were more money moves, going to a Turkey or a Russia, and your salary is quadrupled. But ever since I decided to go pro and left left the opportunity to go to MLS, which they told me I would have been the highest paid, generation Adidas player to come out, and the salary was probably was more than what I was going to be making in Sweden. But I was always dead set on playing in Champions League and playing with the best in Europe and testing myself and seeing how far I could go. Could I maximize my potential? And what is my max potential? I was driven by that. And so getting my foot in the door in Europe, and then, starting to see what, guys in the locker room, they chat how much guys are making, not only on your team, but, what guys are making in the league and why guys are leaving and what contracts are out there. So you come into the national team picture, you start hearing what are guys making, how much guys are getting on bonuses. And you're like, oh, damn, really? Okay. And so I made the league jump, and then I'm like, damn, okay, I'm in a new stratosphere. But for me, you're not even close to feeling satisfied, especially going into playing in Confederations Cup. And I'm sharing the field with Fernando Torres and David Villa and Kaká and Luis Fabiano, and what these guys are making. So once you get a taste of that, you're like, I want what they're making. I feel like I can do that. I can be successful in that type of environment. So the hunger is there. I felt like I only became more determined to play at that level, and you knew the salary would come with that. I never even thought about money, to be honest. I was always thinking about, I want to play in a World Cup. I want to start in a World Cup. I want to start in Champions League. So inevitably, my life was derailed. And now for the rest of my career, I was trying to play catch up. And so being satisfied was completely out of the picture. Am I satisfied that I still can play the game and I'm alive? Great. But money was never part of the whole process for me.
All right. I like that. Chasing the process, Chuck.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. So yeah, great conversation there, and excited for Weston McKennie and what this means for him individually, and then what it means for Juventus, of course. And of course, we're always looking at it from a U.S. men's national team perspective as well. All right, we're going to take our first break. Coach, you want? When we come back, we're going to get into Americans Abroad, Open Cup stuff, and Sergino Dest made a visit to morning footy. Well, he did it virtually. He didn't actually go into the studio, because that would have been pretty awesome. But maybe in the future. So keep it right here. We'll be right back.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Oh, baby. Welcome back into Call It What It Is, according to Jonathan Bornstein. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola. And let's get into Americans Abroad, because there were some pretty awesome performances this past weekend, highlighting some players who hadn't scored in a while that did. We're going to start, though, with Tyler Adams. He completed 55 of 58 passes, 4 recoveries, and a 2-1 win for Bournemouth at the Emirates versus the Arsenal. Sorry, Charlie, as our resident Arsenal fan. I guess all the eggs are in the basket for the Champions League. And then we have Daryl Dike, registered a goal and an assist in a 5-3 win for West Brom over Luton. It's his first league goal in 2 years. Congratulations to Daryl Dike. That is awesome. Fuller and Balogun scored a goal in a 3-1 win versus Saint-Etienne. First goal in 7 months for Flo. Love to see it. Weston McKennie, who we talked about in the first segment, registered 2 key passes, 2 tackles, and a hard-fought 1-1 draw versus Bologna. Bologna is excellent. They're really fun to watch as well. No disrespect to Juve there, but I thought when Thiago Motta left, it was going to be a little harder for them, but they've kept it up. It's been awesome. And then Gianluca Muscio, 5 recoveries, 4 duels, 1 and a 1-1 draw for Venezia versus Torino. There are obviously other players that had performances. We saw Brendan Aronson on the top of a bus celebrating with Leeds, getting promoted to the Premier League. Excited for him just to have that experience. Very, very cool. Anybody stand out for you, Tones, outside of the weekend? Maybe names I mentioned, maybe names I haven't.
Well, I got to go back to one you mentioned because I was in covering this. Daryl Dike scoring a goal. You could just tell the weight off your shoulders, getting back on the field, getting through a game. You'll see the excitement here in his eyes, doing what he does, getting in the box, and I would call him a smiley kid anyway, but you could just tell there was a little something extra in this one for him, given everything that he went through. So that for me was kind of special. Again, like I said, we were here covering it the entire day. We did the whip around show, all the action in the morning, and it was fun to watch him score. They won, right? But it's a 5-3. So I just knowing what he went through over the last 2 years, and the way that it happened, coming back, from an Achilles injury and then immediately doing your Achilles again. I can't even imagine we disregard sometimes the mental part of the game, and Chuck just touched on it a little bit earlier, but my gosh, man, just fun to watch. And Busio was really good. Tyler did Tyler things in the game, and of course, seeing Balogun score is not a bad one either.
Now, Chuck, as our resident number 9, I want to get your thoughts on our strikers in particular, but Daryl Dike did say this via The Athletic. Everyone in the squad knows I'll watch every game. I'll know every player. I'll always watch. So I have dreams in football, whether that's playing the Champions League or playing at the World Cup. I always tell myself that I'm only 24, so I can achieve every one of those dreams. I tell myself that even though I've fallen down, I can get back up. I can still keep going. I can still keep running. And I still have the chance to prove myself and prove to everyone I can still do it and achieve those dreams. Do you think it might be a little bit too late for him for a Gold Cup, or to even get a look from Mauricio Pochettino and the staff ahead of the 2026 World Cup?
Well, one, I can certainly say I've been in his shoes, so I can relate like no other as a striker, as a number 9, and being out for so long. It took me over a year and a half to get back to just playing professionally, and fortunately, I was able to score in my first game for DC United in MLS. What I will say for him is, you have to have that mentality, or you're never getting back from being out over 2 years from scoring a goal. You have to believe that you have a chance at making the World Cup. You have to believe that you can play Champions League. Otherwise, you're never getting up. You're never finding that motivation to keep working, given the injuries and the ups and downs. So I can absolutely empathize with Daryl Dike, because I came out of a car accident, broken femur, broken tib fib, elbow, ruptured bladder, brain bleed, severe concussion. And I said, I'm going to be back for the World Cup in 6 months. Everyone would have told you, you're absolutely crazy. I don't think you're ever going to play again. Right. And here I am working out, going through the rehab, the process. And the whole time I firmly believed I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the impossible. And I made it pretty damn far. So far that I think I blew my mind, the doctor's minds, and everyone around me, thinking that I could get back to having success on the pitch and scoring goals, and almost being consideration for a January camp with the national team. That would have been full circle. And to talk to Jurgen about that, because I had that conversation was, with Bob Bradley and Jurgen, did you ever even think about me? Like, did I impress enough to be in that conversation? And the answer was yes. So for me, that was a win. I have no regrets in my career. I look at what Daryl Dike is doing right now and I say, man, that is special. I'm really rooting for you. I would never sit here and say you got no shot, because in reality, he does have a shot. Who are we to say he doesn't have a shot? So I firmly believe if he keeps going, who knows how far he can go, especially given the number 9 situation right now. But on the flip side, it's a real uphill battle. Do I think he's going to be called in the Gold Cup this summer? No. But for him, that comes maybe with a positive spin. I get a full preseason with my team, and I'm healthy, and I'm the number 9 going into the season as a real contender to be the starter for the season. That's a huge win for Daryl Dike. And then we all know you perform all year. You get on this hot streak. We know he can score goals. He scores 15 plus goals in next season, and he's a hot striker. He's getting called into the national team camp for the World Cup. And then it's on him for Pochettino to go, I can I can have this guy as an asset coming off the bench or not. But to put himself in that position, it's a win. Now, Balogun is the guy that I would be wanting to talk about, Jimmy and Tony, because yes, he got the goal, but he played a role in all 3 goals, the 2 other goals that were scored in the game. Great first touch, great movement. He was active. I really like what I saw. He took a big step forward for me. And so that's another massive positive given his goal drought and injury issues, 7 months without a goal, right? That's a big accomplishment. So I'm feeling pretty good with our striker situation. Guys are playing, guys are scoring, and we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I love that, and we're super proud of you, Chuck, for everything that you did to battle through.
That was great to hear, man.
Yeah, and I do think you can relate to Daryl in a lot of different ways. For those that don't know, Daryl Dike tore his Achilles, and then I believe 8 to 10 minutes into his comeback from that. I mean, obviously he was training, but he got to play, and 8 to 10 minutes into that game, he tore his other Achilles. And man, that could knock out a lot of people in their spirit. But he's only 24. That's the same age as Patrick Ajimong, which is something that we should, he's still young. And I think his player profile, Tones, right? He still provides a contrast that's different than some of the other players that we're evaluating as the number 9.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there because I've always said this about Daryl Dike. If there's a manager that wants a different profile, he offers that. Balls getting swung in the box. If it's one of those games where you just have control and you're getting service and you need someone to run on the end of something, someone to barrel through players, someone to hold the ball up, like he offers just a different profile. So we still don't have a big enough sample size of Mauricio Pochettino and what he likes from this team. So I'm hoping at some point, Daryl, if he doesn't get called in, doesn't get put on that initial roster even for the Gold Cup, that he goes into camp, his preseason camp, and he starts scoring goals right away. Because as we get closer to the World Cup, you're going to have to look at guys that are in form. So maybe in one of those camps he gets a look, but it's going to be tough. I don't see him as a starter with the national team, but I do see him potentially having a role. But it's not going to be if he doesn't go in and score a bunch of goals early on and just becomes, they'll say it in air quotes, a hot striker.
All right, another player that's been dealing with some injuries, long-term injuries, Sergino Dest. He talked Barcelona, PSV, and the U.S. men's national team on Morning Footy earlier today. You can catch that interview in full on the Morning Footy podcast feed. We highly suggest that you do. But one of the highlights for you guys and for everybody that didn't see it, he was asked if he had spoken to Mauricio Pochettino, and he said he'd spoken to an assistant, and it was asked about what he's seen from the team, and I guess they got into it a bit about there needing to be more desire, right, which is a theme that's been heavily discussed. He had a good line talking about PSV sticking by him after the injury while all the other clubs that were interested in him disappeared. A huge player for us, Chuck, in Sergino Dest.
Yeah,
someone that can really provide a different type of dynamic approach from a wide position. And it was clear in the Nations League that we missed his style of play, his confidence on that side of the field and that channel of the field. And I will welcome him back with open arms when he comes. But it's nice to see him with a big smile on his face, giving interviews. Again, I highly suggest you go check that out. But I was surprised he actually hadn't spoken to Mauricio Pochettino directly. Are you in that same boat?
At the moment, I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot of things at play now, and Mauricio Pochettino is clearly still trying to catch up, to get up to speed. And, he probably was thinking, I got to talk with the players that I have at the moment that I can use. I can't even think about what's next. He's got to deal with everything in the moment. And so in the moment, Sergino Dest was not part of the plans. Obviously, healthy Sergino Dest, it's a no-brainer. He's in the team. He's in the starting 11, and he's an amazing contributor because of what he can do. But I think Mauricio Pochettino is just so in the weeds with what he has to deal with right now that he can't even think about, 6 months from now, a year from now. So I'm not surprised, to be honest. But what an asset he is, because he provides you something that no one else can. And it's the same thing on the left side with Anthony Robinson. Our two outside backs can produce these moments for us in terms of creating space for us, creating numerical advantages, whipping in balls, so providing service, beating players on the dribble, just unbalancing teams in ways other players can't do, while also providing defensive cover. And I think Sergino Dest improved with his defensive responsibilities. Unfortunate injury, but I think he has enough time to get back to a level that he can contribute in the World Cup and be someone who can provide some big moments for us.
Yeah, what I really like about his game is, we talk about this, right, when we coach or when we're analyzing. It's you're trying to obviously maximize space and trying to create numerical advantages when you're out on the field. And there's certain players that can help you take advantage of those advantages. And I think Sergino Dest is one of those. If you can create a 2v1 or a 3v2 in the wide channel, the guy's going to turn that into a chance in some capacity. And I don't know if we have, when he's not on the field on that side, I don't know if we have somebody who's just as good as him as that. Jedi's obviously grown a ton on that side, on the left side. When both of them are in, it feels like it gives us balance as a team and makes us more of a threat and less predictable going forward. So, man, I hope he gets healthy, back to 100% as soon as he can. Big Tones, I'm trying to think through, like, okay, when I was part of the national team, did I hear from the head coach, when I was in the pool, players and being counted on a little bit more than just being a fringe player per se, or did I hear from the assistants? And it's I wonder.
I don't know how they did it. I'm surprised though.
I'm surprised though that he hasn't had a direct conversation with Mauricio Pochettino. I don't know.
Even when he got there, I would have thought, like,
yeah, you're gonna pick up the phone and call.
Yeah, you're gonna pick up the phone. Hey, I'm Mauricio.
Right.
I'm your new coach.
Maybe you've seen me,
but you might know me. But yeah, whatever it is, just have a conversation, because even as Chuck said, he hasn't been available, and he's got to focus on who he's got. But it's not like you're focusing on a fringe guy, or at least one that thinks people are a fringe guy, is a fringe player. You pick up the phone and say, hey, how's your rehab going? Hey, I saw you, my guys saw you play. And then if your assistant coaches do all the follow-up stuff, that's not so surprising in this day and age, right? There's a heck of a lot more guys in the pool than there maybe used to be. So you got to have guys traveling around. Guys see different games. So if an assistant coach saw him play, you go, hey, Sergino, hey, good game today. I was happy I was there to see you. But I'm surprised Pochettino has not spoken to him, because I got to think anyone in, from Gooch down to whoever's in Mauricio Pochettino's ear about potential other guys, like Sergino Dest's name was going to come up at some point. Like, he's going to be part of this process at some point. So I am a little bit surprised by this. And there might be a reason for it that we don't know, and that's fine. And there's a reason, and we move on. But I would have thought, if you asked me to bet, Jimmy, has Mauricio Pochettino called Sergino or not, I would have put my money on yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would have said the same. I find it surprising. Maybe that's just because I'm
not surprised. I'm not surprised. Okay. I just think he has a lot on his plate, and I don't know if he literally sits there and goes, you know what, let me connect with everyone. Would it be smart just to,
Dude,
call
the
him?
Last game was 8 weeks ago. Like,
how much golf can you play? Right, pick up the phone. How much golf can you play? I mean, Tones plays a lot actually, so maybe there is a lot of golf you can play.
I mean, at the very least, right? He comes back into training and he maybe plays his first game. You call him just to say, hey, congrats on getting back. We look forward to having you, join us at a future camp. Like, we're watching you. We're supporting you. Something like that. It's an easy call. Just, hey, nice to connect with you. But hey, I'm not surprised given how things have gone so far.
All right. A couple other notable performances. Christian Pulisic started and played 80 minutes in Milan's 2-1 win over Genoa. I guess the big news there is that Yunus Musa finally came off the bench and got 11 minutes in that game. So maybe things are turning around for Musa to get out of the doghouse and back onto the field. Johnny Cardoso dressed but did not play in Real Betis' 2-1 win over Espanyol, which I think is due to the fact that they're playing in the Conference League, second leg against Fiorentina midweek. It's nice to see him getting trusted as well. We're actually going to have a big conversation about these two players, Eunice and Johnny, right after the break. Because guess what? We put Big Tones on the spot, which we know he loves, to give us a list of his top 5 central midfielders. You know what? I don't even want to talk about anything else. I just want to get to the break so we can go right to that. So keep it right here on the Golasso America YouTube channel. Big Tones on the hot seat. It's going to be awesome.
I can't hear you.
Ooh, here we go. Welcome back to Call It What You Want.
No pressure.
Conrad Dino here with Roger Pedactor and Tony Miola. And listen, we have Big Tones, who raised his hand in our production meeting yesterday and said, guess what? I'll be the one that lists my top 5 central midfielders. I'll give you my depth chart. Now, this is in 10s. We're not talking about 10s. This is more of a 6s and 8s type of conversation. And so, Big Tones, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Yeah, it's interesting that the term "he raised his hand," or the hand was you guys raised my hand for me, is more like it went.
That's a heavy hand, Tony. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. We needed 2 of you guys to do it. All right, yeah. So 6s and 8s, and we put them together, and we talked about doing pairings, but we haven't done that before. We've broken it down individually. So here we go. My top central midfielder, I put as Tyler Adams. I just think that the guy offers so much in the middle of the field. The guy does so many different things. He's a leader on the field. He breaks plays up. He's become a better passer. We saw the stats from his last match against Arsenal. He's just growing into the guy in the middle of the field that we can't live without. Okay. Number 2, I went with Weston McKennie. Although he's only played, and some reports say 8 games, some reports say 9 games this year. Out of the 41 games, it's been about 25% of the games at central midfield. I still think when he's in the center of the midfield, we get 2 things. We get work rate and breaking up plays, and then we get a guy that's always willing to get on the end of things in the box, right? Always willing to get forward. So he's the more advanced of the 2. My third central midfielder, and this is where it's this is where it starts to become a conversation.
Okay.
I think Johnny Cardoso and the stuff that he's doing in the midfield, I find it just an American player that's playing in La Liga that for the most part is starting all the time when he's healthy. We can't overlook, and he's had really, really good performances. After that, I went to number 4. I went to Tanner Tessman in that position, and I just think he's grown into his time at Lyon right now, and we're seeing him play more. And quite honestly, when he's coming to the national team, he's done a pretty good job, and it looks like Mauricio Pochettino trusts him because he brings him in all the time. He actually started match 2 against Jamaica, leg 2 against Jamaica before he got hurt. So he
5.
He gets number 1. And my number 5 at central midfield, I put Yunus Musa there. As much as I'd love to see Yunus Musa be the guy in the midfield, he's just not played well recently. He just hasn't been the guy. If you would ask me to do this list, let's say 4 months ago, 5, coming out of the Christmas window, I probably would have had Yunus Musa at number 3, and that whole midfield trio would have been intact. Tyler Adams, McKennie, Musa, the MMA, but it just isn't right now. And given the fact that he's hardly played, there was a time when Conceição got there when he moved from winger to central midfielder, but recently he's hardly played. He hasn't played well for the national team, so I put him at 5 right now. And then you look at some of the other guys. I think it's hard for other guys to break into this. We'll get into those guys in a second, but you guys break down my list for me.
Okay, hold on. I need a frame of reference from you, Tones, before me and Chuck. Who is the best 6 or 8 that you played with? I know Tab's like one of your all times, but he's more of a 10. So who's like?
Well,
he's
a right midfielder. Tab, right midfielder.
Okay.
6 or 8s. So the
just I have
Dooley.
Dooley, okay.
Thomas Dooley was up there.
Well, what made him?
Sure.
What made him? What about his player profile?
Oh, his range. His range was similar to God, just long. Trying to think of a player we've had like him now that you ask me. Long legs, covers a lot of ground. Jermaine Jones type player. I mean,
but
he
didn't have that quickness or force that Jermaine played. Like he couldn't.
No, but his reading of the game.
Yeah.
No, his reading of the game. No, but he was fast. His legs he was like a giraffe when he ran. I mean, his legs were so long, man.
I love that.
He made 18 to 18. Took him like 6 steps to get there. But yeah, remember, this is a guy that was at Kaiserslautern was player of the year. Trying to think of the top number 6. Mike Sorbo in '94 was a different type of 6, and then the other one was John Harkes.
What about John O'Brien?
John O'Brien, different. So out of this group, who would have been the John O'Brien?
Yeah, I got to play with Johnny O as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he's somebody that
Pablo was different.
You could play the ball to him in any situation, and he'd have an answer.
Yeah.
You could put one at his – listen, Chuck, if I was in trouble and I played and I just gave a ball to Johnny O'Brien as fast as I could and it was bouncing at his knee, he would somehow bring it down and then out of his 3 options, he'd find the best one and do it as cool and calm as – he could smoke a cigarette and sip a cappuccino while he's out there playing,
Yeah, I mean, the guy was at Ajax. It is hard to be at Ajax at the age he went there to play.
When he went there.
Yeah, when he went there to be that
stacked.
Like you have to be that technically gifted.
Yeah,
and so that gives you an idea of how good he was.
Claudio, for us, he didn't play in '94 because he got hurt before the World Cup. And then Bruce had him as a right midfielder, because that central midfield of Pablo Mastroeni, who probably is the Tyler Adams of this group, if you will.
Yeah.
But nasty, like had a nasty streak in him. Like there was a switch. Like if you hit the switch by accident, forget it. Johnny O'Brien, there's no one in this group that's a Johnny O'Brien, to be honest. Weston plays differently. Cardoso plays differently. Tessman's probably the closest one because of the way he wants to play, but I don't think he had the passing skill. I don't think any of these guys have the passing skill of Johnny O'Brien. And Claudio, remember, he didn't play much as a central midfielder in the World Cup. So, but if you put Claudio there, he's a completely different player. I look at him as there's no 6 in Claudio. There's more an 8 and a 10 in Claudio. Playing a little bit higher up the field,
I was going to say, is Michael Bradley more in the Weston McKennie type of area, like 100%. As a midfielder? Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Bradley, see, I only played with him at the club level. He was 18 years old when I played with him. Here's a question. Who is a better passer, Michael Bradley or Weston McKennie?
Ooh.
Wait.
Weston's a great passer, but I went through some of Michael's plays and passes as of late. What a!
I think over
the
distance
credit he deserved. He did not get the credit he deserved for service. I mean, he had an incredible pass. He had a great range as well. So some of those delicate chips he'd play into the box for finishes. I can think of some incredible passes he had. I would go Michael was a better passer in terms of his range and his touch.
I would say Mikey as well.
Yeah.
Also in under pressure in midfield, I think Mikey's maybe a little bit better of playing out of that than Weston. But that's a good question. Obviously, they're not like for like. But anyway, none
of these guys are like for like. There's no true like for likes here.
Pablo Tyler's not too far off though. Tyler maybe. Yeah. I don't know. The switch of Pablo, I agree with you. I've seen it. I've seen the switch.
But if Tyler played in that age where you could get away with some of this stuff, I think Tyler would have that switch. Remember, we're in a different time in the way that these guys have to go into tackles and the way they have to do things, and you can't send a message in this game. Like because the message goes to VAR and then you find you're out of the game 2 seconds later. So. But Pablo had an edge, man, and But yeah, so those are guys. I don't know if you have any. There's some guys that were on the fringe, but I don't see them in the 5.
Well, I made a right turn. I wanted to get into kind of your favorite player profile in that particular position and play guys you played against. So Chuck, let's pretend Tony's not here. What do you think of his top 5 list?
I think you nailed it, Tony. I love it.
Wow.
I think you're spot on.
Jeez, I said pretend he's not here, and you're giving him his flowers to his face.
He did an exceptional job. Because Tillman's right there. But, he had dealt with some injuries. And
Tillman's a 10 more for me, though, right? Tillman's more of a 10.
Yeah, but he's a midfielder, right?
Okay. Well, you got Busio, you got Morris, you got Jack McGlynn, who clearly got some valuable minutes in the Nations League.
You got Gutierrez, Busio, Aiden Morris, Kramaski, Paxton Aronson, Brendan Aronson, and then Sebastian Berhalter has been, arguably the best U.S. midfielder in MLS right now. So those are the names, right? That are in competition, and obviously we know things can change within a year. But I think at the moment, spot on, Tony. Phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah, I did this today. Like I did this. I try and take recency bias out of it and all that stuff. Like today, this is how I saw this position.
All right. So with Weston McKennie not being available for the Gold Cup because of FIFA Club World Cup responsibilities with Juventus, do you feel like we're going to see these 4 then get called in for the Gold Cup? You're going to have Adams, Cardoso, Tessman, and Musa, or
for
do you feel like there could be room for another one of the other, like a Paxton Aronson who's had a good season with you, Chuck?
I think there's room definitely for an addition or 2, to be fair. So
that's a lot of central midfielders. We'll have to
remember, it's probably going to be a camp. You're not going to hold it just to 26 players. It might be 30. Who knows how many he brings in? But I think he will. You have to take a look at players in this summer camp window, because he's going to have an idea of who he wants to play. But it's super important for him to bring in players just to get a sense of, is this someone's quality that I like, where I see them fitting in? Just what's their first touch like? What's their, tackling like? What kind of value could they bring to the team? I think it's so critical that he gets a good look at all the guys who are performing.
Doesn't Paxton play a little wider and higher than this? I feel like what we saw in the Olympics.
Not with Utrecht, though.
Not with Utrecht.
Not with Utrecht.
Yeah, he plays like a deep 8.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so I get the sense if there's one guy coming in, as much as I'd like to see Paxton, I feel just from being around that camp in Nations League that he really likes what McGlynn does. I have no, there's no,
like
I have no
playmaker.
Yeah, I have no inside track on this. I just, it's just a sense that I have that he wants to see, that he will want to see more of McGlynn. But I'd like to see Paxton Aronson get a shot here.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool for Paxton and well earned. So we'll have to wait to see how it goes. Big Tones, thank you again for putting that list together against your will. All right, let's talk about US Open Cup. Round of 32. Every game is going to be streamed live on Paramount Plus, and then they'll have some select matches on CBS Sports' Golasso Network. We're going to have a Wednesday Golasso show, a whip around show. Big Tones and Charlie Davies both going to be on that, which would be a lot of fun, being hosted by Nico Cantor. But there's 5 games tonight, and there's so many good matchups. There are so many good matchups. We got Rhode Island hosting the New England Revolution, the red-hot New England Revolution. They switched to a back 3, and it's unlocked all their potential. They've been fun to watch. Fair play to them. Chicago Fire haven't won a trophy since 2006, but have won 4 Open Cup trophies. Will Greg Berhalter get them back in that trophy-winning mindset, as it were? They're hosting Detroit City. You got Philly Union taking on Indy 11. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds hosting NYCFC. You got North Carolina FC taking on Charlotte. That one's happening tonight. DC United Charleston Battery. Yes, please. I'm just going to list them all. I'm already going right now. Tampa Bay Rowdies hosting Orlando City. Orlando City beat them in Tampa Bay last year. We'll see if they can do it again. Nashville and Chattanooga, that's happening tonight. Louisville City hosting Minnesota United. St. Louis City taking on League One Union Omaha, as we like to say it. Phoenix Rising hosting the Dynamo. Dynamo won it 2 seasons ago under Ben Olsen. Can they do it again? Austin FC hosting El Paso Locomotive. Colorado Springs, this is kind of the random one. Colorado Springs Switchbacks hosting the New York Red Bulls. Everything else kind of seemed like, oh, we're going to play against a team in our region. New York and Colorado Springs not in the same region, but that'll be a fun one. FC Dallas hosting another upstart from League One, AV Alta. Good luck to both teams there. Tacoma Defiance, the only MLS Next Pro team left, hosting the Portland Timbers, going back to Starfire Academy to see if they can take another scalp after beating the Oakland Roots. And then the San Jose Earthquakes are hosting the Sac Republic on Wednesday. So that will be a lot of fun. The president of Sac Republic, friend of the show, Todd Dunavant, going back to face his old club, Bruce Arena, and the San Jose Earthquakes. I was down at the Quakes game this past weekend against the Timbers. They won 4-1. They are unbelievable going forward. And they finally tightened it up defensively to get a big result there. Hopefully that'll be a catalyst for them to have more success. Of all those ones I mentioned, what stands out for you, Charlie Davies? Which one do you like the most? I know, well, Rhode Island, New England. Okay. Outside of that one, what's another one you're excited about?
I'm not going anywhere outside of Rhode Island versus New England. We're talking about the pinnacle of New England football, New England soccer is the New England Revolution. And here we have Rhode Island, right? With Cano Smith, former Revs player, head coach, Michael Parkhurst, former Revs player, owner. Brand new stadium. It doesn't get better. I wish I could go, but I'll be in studio here covering it. So I still get to see the game. But what a monumental moment for the sport in New England. I'm hyped. It doesn't get better.
Okay, so we have people asking your prediction. What's your prediction?
Man, the Revs are hot right now.
You like that pause, Big Tones? He paused. Like, what should I say here?
They've won four straight. They've won 4 straight. I'm giving you an honest prediction. The Revs have won 4 straight.
He's stalling.
They are flying.
He's giving context. He's stalling.
I think this is close, but I'm gonna go 2-1 Revs.
Okay. Do you think the Revs are gonna roll out their best players? Are we getting a little Carlos Hill? Is he pulling the strings, or are they gonna go?
Carlos Hill is not playing tonight.
You gotta go for it.
This guy is MVP level right now. He is not playing tonight.
Okay.
In Rhode Island, that might sway me a little bit here.
Well, yeah,
we're going to extra time here for sure in Rhode Island.
All right, Big Toes.
Let's have some free soccer in Rhode Island.
What's your favorite matchup? There's some good ones, some really good matchups in the round of 32.
I'm always intrigued by Louisville, right? So Louisville's Minnesota. So a Minnesota team that's hard to break down defensively, the counterattacks. Louisville. Always a team that I think they're in USL. They do a great job. They've got a beautiful stadium. I'm always interested in how they do in against MLS teams. That's one I'll be looking at. And then the Florida Derby. Look, Tampa Bay's been really good for years. A little bit of a struggle, coming out of the gates this year in close to the bottom. But I think this will be one that they'll get up for. So a little Florida Derby with Orlando City, who is a really good attacking side. Those are two. Tonight, there's only 5 games. Keep in mind, we won't have that whip around show until tomorrow night when the rest of the games are happening. DC United and Charleston, I don't think they've played since 2008. So that'll be a good one. So, yeah, there's some really good games. The Red Bulls, I don't know who they pissed off, but they got to travel 3/4 of the way across the country to play on a Wednesday night. Colorado, who they beat last week, was Knoxville. Well, it was Ian Fuller's team. They beat Knoxville. They knocked them out, or won Knox.
3-2.
Yeah. So that Tacoma and the Timbers. Isn't Tacoma there used to be there? Are they still there?
It's the Sounders second team. They just named them.
So that's interesting. Yeah, that's an
the only MLS Next Pro team left. Obviously, I'm pulling for any of the USL League One teams to continue to take some scalps. Again, AV Alta going to Dallas.
Who's your big upset, Jimmy? Who's your upset tonight?
I could see Charleston Battery on the back of MD Myers scoring a hat trick against Tormenta in the round before, somehow beating DC United in the next round or in this round to book their ticket against the winner of North Carolina versus Charlotte. That just like a nice little regional derbies that are happening in that area. So my upset is the Charleston Battery, and MD Myers is going to score the match winner. Full of confidence is a hell of a drug, as we like to say. So I like that one. I wanted to go to the Quakes Sac Republic game tomorrow night. We'll see if I can make that happen.
Going. Don't tell me you found a way to not go. Yeah, wait, Tony.
I'm coaching my team. I'm coaching. You coming at me?
This guy's been ruffled from the beginning of the podcast. He's not funny enough. He's bitter. And here he is saying, I'd love to go, but it's tomorrow.
You can't
Make
move
it
the
happen.
training.
Come
You're
on.
the coach. Move the training.
Move the training. It's not that easy. Field space is not easy to come by. This is our last week before the season. Listen, I don't want to get into my feelings here at this moment. I'm not bitter. I'm definitely funny, and I'm calling it. The show's over. Okay, you know what's funny is Chuck's sweater. What the hell are you wearing? That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Tony should love this. This is like 90s goalkeeper vibes. Are you kidding me?
That's one of my favorites you ever worn.
Come on now.
All right, everybody, that's it. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, enjoy the U.S. Open Cup matches, especially with these two guys. Should be a lot of fun, and the coverage is going to be amazing. The Glosso Network, Paramount Plus. Make sure you tune in. Go support a team. If you don't have one, pick one, right? This is our March Madness. Go pick a team and go enjoy it. Congratulations again to Weston McKennie and all the players that played well in our player pool this past weekend.
Yes.
We'll see you on Thursday. Later.
What a show. What a show.
Woo!
Vote.
What a
Vote.
sweater.
Let's go.
Roger
Like and
Pedactor.